What's up, vinyl community? What's up, VC? It's Dan hanging out with you. Not for Dan's Vinyl channel, but Dan, the Vinyl Geezer. That's right. After that contest that I did 2 years ago where I promised you I was going to change the name of the channel, I finally did it. And went with the Vinyl Geezer. So let's talk about that so we can get that out of the way and address the elephant in the room. Of course, yes, the name of the channel is now the Vinyl Geezer. And that's partly because I'm an old codger and partly because of the Gray Man. The Gray Man is he's a guy in the comic community as well. He does some Vinyl channel videos too, occasionally. And he entered that contest for changes and that I did a couple of years ago. He says at the end of the video, he says, "So sub to Giza and give him some watches." And so I thought, perfect. And then I had mentioned that in another video, and Bev from Clarkavision says you should call yourself the Geezer. And I think she kind of said it in a jokingly way, but I kind of took it and I was like, yeah, that actually probably wouldn't be a bad name, the Vinyl Geezer. And then something happened to me this year as I began my new job. I'm a teacher now, and we have a mask mandate at work. And something happened, and it kind of solidified that this is what I was going to do. So we have a mask mandate at work. I'm not getting into the politics of anything, so you guys will never know how I feel about these things. But anyway, so I'm wearing my mask at work. So the first week of school, this is how the kids are seeing me. So I look completely different with this on. So, as most people do, you guys have seen those people where you've seen them like this, you know, with their mask on, and then they take it off, and you're like, oh. Well, I have a student, and when I took off the mask to eat lunch, as I have lunch duty on Thursdays, I take it down, and I see his eyes go, like what is going on? Who is this? And he's like, "Are you 70 years old?" I said, no, not that being 70 would necessarily be a bad thing. I would love to live to be 70, but I'm 25 years away from that yet. And I said, no, I said, I'm 45, not 70. He says, oh, because my grandpa, he's 70. He has a lot of gray in his beard like that. Which took me back to the Gray Man, which took me back to Geezer, Vinyl Geezer. It came together. I made this decision actually about a year ago when I stopped making videos. It's like, if I ever come back, it's going to be the Vinyl Geezer. And now, here I am, back as the Vinyl Geezer. So that's it. That's the name. So, there you go. Anyway, it is nice to be back. I do want to thank some people for encouraging more videos, and that's Brian from Brian's Vinyl Records, David Newton from Untitled Vinyl, and he's also got a horror channel now. Also, Corey at Just Add Vinyl, and last but certainly not least, Cosmic Brian from Cosmic Vinyl, who was like, ultimately like, just make some freaking videos, dude. It's not rocket science. You go out, you show some records, you talk about them, you're done. You're putting too much thought into this. Because what had happened is, after you step away for a while, you start getting into kind of like an analytical mind. Well, I do. I start getting into an analytical mind. What am I bringing to the vinyl community? So I see all these wonderful channels coming out, guys. I mean, there is not coming out, but just channels with some great content coming out. Like, you've got the 45 RPM audiophile, Michael. You've got Mazzy, who's still killing it. You've got, there was this channel that during the COVID lockdowns, I started listening to a lot of jazz, and I found this guy, the Jazz Shepherd, and I saw one of his videos a year back, and he was talking about how important hard bop was. And you start thinking, like, what am I bringing to the table other than showing you guys some Bon Jovi records? Not a lot. But then what happens is, when you get in that analytical mode, you aren't thinking like what it means to be part of the vinyl community. And that is the community part. Communal, communication, talking to everybody, and sharing this passion. So, after some encouragement from some friends in the vinyl community, I decided to come back and make a video today. And we'll see how it goes from here on out. I'm going to try to add some content that actually has some kind of meaning, but I'm not going to get too far into the weeds of that today. I just want to kind of talk about some records that you guys haven't seen yet, because back when this whole thing started, it was Rob Walker, Let the Music Play. It was his contest, Show Me 5, and it's show 5 albums you haven't shown. So I've got 6 albums I'm going to show here, and we're just going to get into the records. And I just want to do a special shout out. Eric, I just saw that you were back 3 weeks ago. I just want to say, I'm watching your video right as soon as I'm done making this one, and it's great to see you back, dude. And I love your beard. It looks phenomenal on you. So regardless, if you're watching this, Eric, hello, man. It's good to see you back. And thank you for, you know, you talk about Eric real quick. I'm just gonna say Eric's a great guy. Eric will just like out of the blue be like, Happy Easter, man. Just Happy Easter, bro. You know, just shoot you a text, and I appreciate that, man. That really does mean a lot. So I am so glad to see you back, dude. So anyway, let's talk about some records, guys. So as we get into this, I'm just going to go show you guys some records and what's cool about them, why they're cool. First one is an upgrade. It's an upgrade copy to this late 70s RCA pressing of Nielsen Schmielsen. That didn't sound too bad until you start getting some records that sound really good. And then you put on something like that and you're like, man, this doesn't really sound like that great. My wife's like, yeah, this doesn't sound good. This kind of sounds like crap. Is there any better copies available? I'm like, a matter of fact, there was a MoFi that came out that I pre-ordered that had some allocation issues, and I didn't end up getting the pre-order, and I figured it would be way out of reach by now, but for some reason, somehow, guys, I picked this up at a really great price, the Nielsen Schmielsen MoFi. And wow, this is a definite upgrade from that late 70s RCA pressing that I have. I don't have any other pressings to compare this to. This is a 2LP 45 RPM edition of Nielsen Schmielsen, and you should have Nielsen Schmielsen, the best that you can get, and at least I thought I should. So I definitely got the MoFi after I saw the ridiculous price that I nabbed this for. I was very happy to get it for what I got it for, and such a great album. One of the things I love about this album is they have this picture, and it's like, I think that the focal point is right here on this table, because this is nice and in focus. He's completely out of focus, and I think that was intentionally done. I just love Harry Nilsson stuff. He's quirky, he's Beatlesque, he's definitely original. There's some quirky stuff on here like Coconuts, Early in the Morning. You guys would probably know if you saw that Russian Doll series, Gotta Get Up. Fantastic stuff. 2LP 45 edition. The only complaint that I have is that there's like more dead wax sometimes than there is information on the record. I feel like they could have done this in 3 records on 3 sides instead of 4 sides. But you got to make some kind of, you know, there's got to be a give and take. There's got to be something. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be close, and this is pretty close. The only thing that I would say, it could have been spread out over 3 sides of the record. Maybe have an etching or something on the 4th side, like you see a lot of these records are. This one just feels like you change it a lot more often than the others. And when I say the others, the other 2LP 45 RPM editions that I have in my collection, like LA Woman, Rumors, Nina Simone's Little Girl Blue, the Analog Productions. It just seems like you're flipping this one a lot as compared to the others. It feels a little more natural. So anyway, Nielsen Schmielsen, pick that up if you see it at a good price. It's definitely worth it. It's the best I've ever heard it. But then again, what do I have to compare it to except for a late 70s RCA pressing? So anyway, that's my 2 cents. This next one, speaking of 70s pressings, this is a great 70s pressing. This is, so this is the third copy of this record that we've bought. We bought one version. It was a reissue that was done by an overseas company called Dole, and it was not good. So I was so excited when I saw that the Blue Note Classic series was going to add this to their the Classic series. It's kind of an audio file, all cut by Kevin Gray. Really nice, well done reissues at a good price. They aren't in these great tip-on jackets or anything. They're just kind of in laminate jackets, just normal jackets. And we got that, and oh man, it was a great improvement. And it was Midnight Blue. However, after buying that one, we saw this one in a record store in Ashland, Missouri, and we had to jump on it. It was at my friend Jesse's store called King Theodore Records, and we picked this up. And this is a 73 pressing. I believe, I don't want to speak too much because I don't know the history of Blue Note Records, but I believe they were bought out by Liberty at this point. And this is a 1973 pressing. In comparison to the Classic series, it just has a little more life, a little more grunt to it. It's not as pristine and clean on the top end. So if that makes any sense to you guys. So if you get a chance to get this, these are great reissues. I have a couple of these from the 70s. I have some DMM Blue Note pressings from the 80s that sound good as well. So these are always a great buy. So Donald Byrd's A New Perspective on around the same time. So I believe this is when they were owned by Liberty. I'm not exactly sure, so don't quote me on that. Just know that this is a great summer jazz album. There's some summer jazz albums, some winter jazz albums. That one for me is more of a summer jazz album. But you can spin it any time of the year. Trust me. It's good. It's good in December as it is in July. All right, so this next one. Story behind it. Perusing the dollar bin at one of my favorite record stores, In the Groove. Not the In Groove, but In the Groove in Jefferson City. And I see this for $1. And I'm thinking, Buckingham Knicks for $1 for $1? What? This is crazy. So I open up, I look at it, the wax completely thrashed, but didn't look like it had deep scratches or anything in it. And sometimes records look way worse than they are. Well, this one, it wasn't that great. And the cover is not in the greatest shape, but it's not bad shape. I mean, it's got some issues. It's got some ring wear and some issues with it. But I didn't think it was that bad, and to have an original copy, you could hear how good the album sounded. It just sounded like, and I was explaining this to somebody else, that it sounded like Lindsey Buckingham himself was frying bacon in the studio, because it's just kind of had this constant going on throughout the entire record. But underneath that frying bacon sound, you really heard how good this album had the potential to be. So I've been on a lookout for this. I have a reissue of it that's a unofficial reissue that didn't sound bad. But then I saw this popped up again on another Hit Records in Columbia, Missouri. Popped this up, and they had, and the entire bottom of the cover was completely torn off. It looked like it was like some moisture problems, and the entire gatefold was like ripped open, looked like due to some moisture issues. And they had like a frowny face on it. And I immediately texted them, and I was like, hey, that Buckingham Knicks, how's the vinyl on that? Like, vinyl's pristine. Cover's completely thrashed. $20. I'm like, hold it, I'll be right there. Went and bought it, picked it up. Frankenstein, a little copy of Buckingham Knicks here. Still on the lookout for a nice, super nice jacket to go with the super nice vinyl. But like I say, and like my friend Brian over at Brian's Vinyl Records says, you can't play the cover, guys. So this is good enough for me. Buckingham Knicks. It's one of those albums that's, to me, an audiophile quality album, but not an audiophile album. if you know what I'm saying. It's not marketed as an audiophile album. It's never been reissued. Apparently, Stevie and Lindsay can't get together good enough to release an album that they would probably make a freaking mint over if they had somebody like Ryan K. Smith or Kevin Gray do a new cut of that. But anyway, I don't know. I don't know the story. You never know. The tapes could have burned up in that fire. There's all kinds of stories on what's happened with them two. And we just need to get those guys in the room and talking again, man. Because it took two guitar players. Neil Finn, one of my favorite guitar players. But it took one of my favorite guys from the 80s, Neil Finn, Crowded House, and Split Ends. But it took him and another guitar player to replace Lindsey Buckingham and Fleetwood Mac. So what does that tell you? Two guys to replace Lindsey Buckingham. Yeah. You guys need to get it back together with Lindsey Buckingham. Fleetwood Mac. If you're watching, of course you are. You know you're watching the geezer, right? Anyway, this next album I've seen a lot out and about, and I didn't buy it because I knew this issue was coming out. Intervention Records does great reissues. They do Flying Burrito Brothers, Matthew Sweet, Everclear, Joe Jackson. And The Church, they did Starfish. Look at this. Beautiful Stoughton tip-on gatefold jacket on heavy cardstock. Just beautifully done. It's got a bonus disc of 7 extra songs that were artist approved and all analog, and this is one of the best sounding records in my collection, is The Church's Starfish. So if you get a chance and you see this out and about, it's definitely worth the $40 or so that you're going to spend for Starfish from The Church. You guys would know the song Under the Milky Way. I would say that Under the Milky Way is a great song, but it's not the best on this record. I would say there's a song called Destination on here and Reptile that really give it a run for its money, and the rest of the album is just fantastic. So make sure you check that out if you see it out and about, or just stream it. It's a great album. It's a great sounding album. Very well recorded album. And Intervention, of course, Ryan K. Smith from Sterling, he does a great job. You guys who are in the audiophile pressings already know that. So, this next one, I started hearing this in the late summer, early fall, and we went to Colorado, and I said, if I find this in a shop in Colorado, I want to pick it up, and I didn't. And then my wife surprised me. This showed up in the mail one day. She surprised me with Timothy Showalter's Strand of Oaks in Heaven. This is a great album. This is Heartland rock. Just phenomenal stuff. Kind of reminds you of The War on Drugs, Ryan Adams, Bruce Springsteen. Kind of has that real, and the lyrics are great. Just a real artist. Also appearing on this record is James Iha from Smashing Pumpkins. He's in a song called Easter. So check out Strand of Oaks. This is apparently their 8th album. It's the first time I had ever heard of them. And it was the song Galacticana that I had heard on one of the local radio stations here in town. And it just blew me away. I was like, I did that whole, ask Siri, who is this? Brought up the Strand of Oaks. Never heard of him before. Apparently been around for a while. Timothy Showalter. Good stuff. Great stuff. All right. So last but definitely not least, from one geezer to another geezer by the name of Geezer Butler. Yes, Black Sabbath Volume 4 finally makes its ways into my grimy mitts. Man, I really love this record. Snowblind, Supernaut, Changes is on this record. The Changes, it seems to be a polarizing song in the Black Sabbath fan community, but not to me. This is a late 70s, early 80s Warner Brothers pressing. It sounds really good on my system. It's not tip-top great. It's got some little issues, but finally found it. I've been burned on buying some reissues of good records, guys. I wanted to find something that I could crack open and take a look at in the store before I bought it. And stores kind of frown on you breaking sealed records, looking at the vinyl inside of them, because there's been a lot of quality control issues that I have been burned on. Specifically, there's a Rain Tree Crow album that I bought. There's a ABC's Lexicon of Love 2 that I bought that had some massive problems. So I try to steer away from things that I can't look at. I just want to make sure that there's no non-fill or some kind of crazy dust that gets within the jackets or something. It causes some problems on some of the vinyl records that are coming out. Anyway, guys, that's it. I'm going to be trying to think of some good video ideas. I'm going to try to enter some contests and just kind of try to hang out with the vinyl community once again. I just want to say hi and thanks to everybody for, if you hung out for 20 minutes, thanks for hanging out. And we'll talk to you guys later. Peace. Y'all have a great rest of your weekend. And take care, and we'll see you later. Bye.